Hey everyone, it's Ride1940 here. Today we're taking a look at Sea Power Naval Combat in the Missile Age. This is going to be a walkthrough of the Oliver Hazard Perry class frigate. This is the type of ship that I was on in the Navy. We'll see how it holds up in the game. Right now I think we've sunk a trawler that is a spy ship. And you can see here the 76mm, the Mark 75 gun is pointed right at it. And this antenna is pointed right at it too. This is called the STIR, which is the Separate Target Illumination Radar. On the type of Oliver Hazard Perry class that I was on, we were more modernized, so what ended up happening as the years and decades rolled on, they got rid of this system, and there was, if you look at some of the newer pictures of the Oliver Hazard Perrys before they got decommissioned, there's a antenna here that kind of looks like a dome like that, and it's on 3 posts that come to a point, and that's the Commercial Broadband Satellite Program, or CBSP antenna. Now if we look around here, we got another egg-shaped dome here. This is called the CAS, or Combined Antenna System. It's got a track wall scan sort of radar inside of it, and also a tracking radar. This big one rotating here is the SPS-49, that's the air search radar. And the little guy up here is the SPS-55, which is a surface search. And you don't see it here, but there would be a tiny antenna, kind of like that, smaller though, called the Furuno, and it's a commercial navigation radar, so that way we can just use that for driving the ship around and not broadcast that we're a military vessel if we don't use that radar. So also with the modern frigates, some of these things that were changed was this sort of system for dropping the boats went away. The ships went to using ribs, and with it, this was a solid deck that didn't have this arm that would drop down, and there became a slewing arm davit that kind of sat over here. Is basically a crane that would extend and pick up the boat and drop it down, and then you'd load people up down right here and lower the boat. So this model, I really enjoy the details on it with the Desron insignias, and they're all different. If you go to another frigate, you're not going to see the same one, so it's pretty cool. There are multiple Desrons. There are ships that are in different Desrons, so it's cool to see that detail, and it's just not a placard that is defaulting to the same Desron for every ship, so that's cool. Now up here we've got this level of detail looks pretty good. I just remembered the story of on the frigate I was on. Back here there's a door, I think, and somewhere around here, I think it was here. This door that was here, basically something was wrong with the electrical system for the foghorn, and that door didn't go to the pilot house or anything. It was the fire controlman used it. It was, I think it had some equipment for the CAS, and if you slammed that door, the foghorn would go off on the ship. So the fire controlman, if they were feeling cheeky, they would slam that door and the foghorn would go off at random times in the day. Oh man, and so you'd be working out topside or something, just hear a bump. Goodness. And so on the sides here we've got triple torpedo tubes, the Mark 32s. Usually on the bulkhead around here you'd see 3 flasks, and they'd basically be the circular end parts here are like filled with compressed air, and they're normally just stored on the bulkhead there, and then you fill them with compressed air, and then the torpedo should be loaded. Then you put the flask in there, and that's enough power to launch the torpedo out into the water. There's this hatch I don't think exists on this side, on the starboard side here. There would be a hatch kind of around here with a watertight door in it, and that goes into what we call the TP way. On this frigate type, there's a P-way that goes across here, and that's the top of the T, and then it also goes down the center line going aft. And there's another door that's missing here on the stern. This area is basically one big hatch with a watertight door on the inside of it. And when we're at sea, that hatch is closed, and then the watertight door is basically how you access this P-way, and it's a major thoroughfare because it goes right between the 2 hangars. You have doors inside there that can go to the sides of the hangars, but it also goes to where this T cross connects. On this side, the port side, is where you get these doors, because this is where the torp mag is at. So you can open the doors and drive the torpedo out this way. think on the starboard side, what we had to do was open that hatch, and it was kind of a pain in the butt because you had to get the torpedo out across the TPUA and then load it. So that's how we did that. This is also where we had this was the smoke deck, and if you've been in the Navy, you're not getting a break unless you're out smoking, which is pretty funny. And oftentimes a lot of people, good technicians, they were smokers, and they would you take a smoke break to get away from something that was just driving you crazy, and you talk to the other technicians doing the same thing, and you kind of bounce ideas off each other, and eventually sometimes you get some great ideas to go try, and it works, so it's great. Over here we've got the flag bags. This kind of looks a little off because this should be closed, and then on the top there's kind of like a tarp or leather sort of covering, covers over the top here, and all that is basically these flags, these lines would actually clip to the tops of this, and the QMs, the quartermasters, would run out from the bridge if they needed to change a flag, and then open the flag bag up, pick whatever flag they wanted, and run it up the lanyard. This one, for the ensign, there's actually another flag bag just for, I think, the ensigns. There's different types, so we've got, there's just a normal ensign, there's some that are the holiday ensign, so they're like massive, and then you've got, well, I wouldn't say massive, they're larger than the normal ensign, and then you've got the battle flags, or the battle ensign, which is massive, and a massive American flag. A lot of times you'll see it if you watch newsreels of missiles being launched, cruise missile strikes or something in the middle of the night. If you look really carefully on the yardarms for the ships, you'll often see the big battle flags. It'll be like a big American flag. And that goes back to the sailing times where you wanted to have VID of your targets, and you wanted to let people know what side you were on. And so that's why they're so huge. A lot of times now when ships pull out or in from deployment, they'll have their battle flag out. So yeah, that's pretty cool. So this thing could be closed up, and you can just put a brown tarp thing over it and draw another box there. But that's just nitpicking stuff. This here is the generator exhaust. We don't have any guns and stuff up here, but if we did have that stuff modeled, there'd be 50 cals up here. I remember having to run up here a few times. We were off the coast of Panama, and there was this sailboat that just would not get out of our way. And sailboats have the right of way if they're under sail. If you're on a motor vessel and you're at restricted maneuvering, however, you have the right of way, and so they need to get out of the way because you're, for whatever reason, because of your size or where you're at, you just can't maneuver. Actually, right now, because we have the tail out, we'd be considered restricted maneuvering. You could have like day shapes up here just to let people know. I don't know if they do that in wartime though, but yeah. Anyways, so we were at restricted maneuvering, and this boat was just coming straight at us, and it was lunchtime, so the mess decks are kind of like down here. We heard the alarm, so me and this other guy, my division, ran up there, started loading up the guns because we didn't know what was going on, and the CO was out here on the bridge wing, and he's got his binoculars on this boat in front of us. He's like, "Train your guns on that effing a-hole right now." And so we pointed our 50 cals at him, and he finally got the hint. You know, also we were honking our horn. In the Navy, just in the maritime world, if you have 5 short blasts, that means I don't know what you're doing. You need to stop what you're doing, get out of my way, sort of thing. And we kept doing that, and he just wasn't responding until we finally pointed the 50 cals at him, and then he started to do what we wanted him to do, which is get out of the way. Yeah, so that was that. I will say I really enjoy the devs in this game constantly fixing the ships and stuff, because when I first saw the Oliver Hazard Perry model in the game like years ago, I think they had put out some screenshots, I was a little concerned because the nets were actually up, and this was also up too, and I thought to myself, well, surely if the nets are up, if they're going to do flight ops in the game, they'll have the ability to lower them. And I asked in the comments, and they said, no, it's just going to stay up. We don't have the ability to do that. And I was like, oh, that's going to look so weird, because, and even when the YouTubers first got access to the game before it released, some of those videos I could see the nets were still up, and the helicopters just looked weird taking off because they had to No helicopter would do that. It's just too dangerous, right? But over time, even in the early access before the game release, they fixed that, and I think this is a great compromise to have it down in the flight position. In real life, you can actually fully drop these nets down, but for flight ops, they'll be propped down kind of halfway like this, just to catch people from going over the side. The only times you'd kind of lower them fully is, you see where there's these chocks, and these are called bits. For line handlers, you'd have to lower the net fully so that the line can go through, and then the rest would be fully up so people don't fall over the side or anything. This here also concerned me on a lot of the ships. Navy ships underway, they don't have this up at all. In fact, on this ship, this would be stored inside the TPUA. There's some clamps on the bulkhead, and you wouldn't see it on the deck, but I do like that it's actually in the down position. In reality, it would just not be there. But that is nice to see, because this is how the silhouette should look. There should not be an antenna, or not an antenna, but that stern mast here. The only reason they do that is when the ships pull in, then they say moored shift colors, and they'll lower this flag, and then they'll raise it on the stern. So if you ever look at Navy ships in port, they always have the flag on the stern. But when they get underway, they lower the flag and they raise it on the main mast. And that's just how almost all the navies I've seen do it, and we're no different. And there's also a jack staff on the front. We'll have the Navy jack. Depending on if we're at war or not, it'll be the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, or one that's blue with like a white star, I think. So, yeah, this stuff, it's good to see it lowered, and it'd be just good to just not see it at all, but I really like that, because now this is the silhouette you should expect. On the other OHP frigates, you'll actually see, I don't know if they'll ever come to the game. I thought I saw something like they want to add it eventually. The longer hulls kind of have we call it the poop deck. It's like just steps down from where the flight deck is, and there's a little extension here. There's a hatch that goes down in between the Nixie room and the TAC test room. And speaking of that, we've got here two things being towed by us, and if you look at pictures from real OHP frigates, this isn't like a square or anything. This actually looks like, let me see if I can find another ship. Yeah, there we go. Kind of looks like this, but they're really close together, and it's on this side. So this actually makes me think that this ship was supposed to have a Nixie. Nixie is the towed decoy, and it's not secret. You can go on dvids.mil, which is a defense repository for pictures, and you can just type in Nixie, and you'll see pictures of what that room actually looks like and what that winch system looks like. And it's kind of the same across the board. It's just a standard thing. And it's got two winch reels on it, and those hold one fish each. So that's why normally you'll see two of these together like that. They're a little closer on the frigates, but yeah, it looks something like that. It would come out it would be stationed here. But in this game, the towed array and the Nixie come out of the same spot, and I've told the dev about it already, so maybe they'll fix it in the future. If you looked at pictures of frigates that do have a towed array, you'll see what we call like the brass asshole over here, and that's where the towed array is coming out of. On frigates, basically, this section here is the Nixie room, and then there's a little P-way in between it, and then there's the TAC room or the winch room, and that goes pretty far out over here. It's actually brutal to work on in the Middle East, because you can imagine the flight deck being black color like this or dark colored, and it's just cooking in the sun, and you're right underneath it, so it's just brutally hot. And TAC the winch room there is not air conditioned at all. It's just got normal ventilation, so it sucks. It's not normally a manned space, so that's why they don't really care. Thank God, though, for Nixie. Nixie has electronic stuff in it, so it's always air conditioned, so you can cool off in there. And that's what we do. Yeah, so yeah, it's a pretty good look at this ship. I'm not sure why the coloration is different up here. Usually, and also, yeah, I think this is just artwork and stuff, but you don't really see any of these panel lines here at all. This is just covered in non-skid. So non-skid, it's kind of like it's hard to explain. It's almost like a grip tape sort of asphalt sort of thing. It's just made so like you're not going to slip around when you walk with your boots and it gets wet. So it's kind of rough. It certainly hurts if you fall on it. but it makes everything uniform looking on the surface, so you wouldn't see any panel lines like that or anything, especially the flight deck. You do see these pad eyes though. These are for tying down the aircraft, obviously. I don't think these guys had the RAS system. I think that was only for the long holes. That would be pretty cool to see, and if we get a long haul one. Basically, the SH-60s had this system. There was these tracks that went out, and on it was kind of like a flatbed thing that was really low profile, and there would be like a bubble right here where there was a guy that can control it, I think, and he would call out to the helicopter. It can lower this I think it's like a knob or something, and the RAS system can just grab it, and it would secure the helicopter in place. So if the ship was rolling and stuff like that, it can make sure it's not going to tip over or anything. And I think you can also arrest the helicopter too, so you can hook into it and pull it down basically to that spot. And the thing that made it really safe is then you can traverse it back into the hangars. You don't have to worry about the helicopter tipping over or anything. So that's why they implemented that. Up here is where you do the unreps for fuel. And I never did unreps on this ship, thank goodness. You unrep a lot when you're on a ship, but I was always in sonar control for it, and my poor younger guys had to go and do that stuff. On DDG, I did a lot of unreps. There's different stations, so you got the fuel stations all over the ship, and then you've got a conrep section, and a lot of times they'll do vert reps too, so they'll just break down, they'll just fly helicopters over with pallets, drop it on the flight deck, and then people would just daisy chain it all the way down, or form a human chain and unpack the crates and stuff that way, because the supply, I think the cold store was just somewhere around here, below decks. There's an elevator, but we would just slide things down the ladder wells to get to it. Yeah, and this also is same thing with the color palette. This wouldn't be a different color. This is just going to all be non-skid. And this is just basically a marker for where to put helicopter drop supplies. So this is where they can safely put a pallet if they wanted to bring pallets on board this way. Generally, they'll just use the flight deck because there's more room, but they can certainly do it that way. Yeah, so that's a look at that. Actually, we can look at the Mississippi because it's got... This is pretty... I like the details on this because... for unrep stations, this P that you see here, that is how it really looks, and the striping is also how it really looks. This is telling the unrep ship that at this station you can send passengers over if you want, and then the green and white stripes mean that this is where you're going to send your palleted supplies over. So when they're doing a connected replenishment, that's how we get food to the ship while the ship's still moving. And then I'm not sure where this ship would actually connect the fuel at, but there's, actually I know the Kid on their model has great, there we go. This is how even the Arleigh Burkes that I was on, they had some fuel stations like this. They had multiple ones. There was also some on the nose in front of the windbreak. But for this guy, these symbols also tell the ship what the unrep ship what type of fuel this particular station can have. A lot of times they're numbered too. Yeah, so they can be, I think, crisscrossed with 4 colors depending on the type of fuel they take, and that's generally what they look like. Basically, this thing will swing out, and then the fuel hose, you have to manually pull it over with a bunch of guys, and then seat it into that, and then it'll start pumping the fuel over. It's actually pretty nice to be on the fuel line, because when I was on the Arleigh Burke destroyer, basically, if you were done on the fuel line, once you connected it was a lot of work to pull it over, but once you were done, you can kind of go hide somewhere on the other side and just fall asleep on the deck and just wait until the fuel was over. And it would take, it could take an hour or two sometimes, depending on what you're getting or how much stuff you're getting. And the Conrep guys, I'm assuming... this is the Conrep station. See that icon there? It's painted on the bulkhead. So this is where they would take the stores. If you're on that, it sucked because you had to pull the line over, get it all hooked up, and then they start sending supplies, but they're sending pallets, so there's really a rush to, once the pallet comes over, to pull it away and start breaking it down. So all the guys on the conrep line basically had to do that the whole time. They never got a break. And then there's also a line that would be on the bow here, and it would, that line sucked too, because basically you'd stand there and you were holding a line that had a bunch of flag markers, and those showed the bridge teams what the distance was. So as we got closer, you'd pull more of it in so they can kind of see that we're getting too close or if we're perfectly on station. Yeah, so that is how that stuff is. Hopefully, I don't know if we'll ever see it in the game to actually see a connected replenishment, but I know that they're going to implement something that happens for that in the dynamic campaign, because unreps are kind of a big thing in the Navy. It's something that would have to play into the strategy of getting ships going a vast amount of distances and making you want to protect that ship when you're traveling into hostile waters, because it's very important, right? So hopefully we see something like that in the game. But yeah, overall I think this is a great model for the Oliver Hazard Perry. It is really believable, and I mean, even the things that I nitpick here, it's just minor stuff, really. As an aside, not a nitpick or anything, but just for you guys' information, these antennas here, these are whip antennas, and they actually can rotate fully sideways like 90 degrees, and they kind of just hang off. And if you ever look at video clips on YouTube of the 76 firing or the Seawas firing, these antennas are folded downwards, and they're that way so they can they don't risk blowing these things apart with the gun. And I think for flight quarters they also lower these guys as well. Yeah, if you ever see footage of that stuff, you'll notice they're not standing upright, they're always folded down. I think for the kid, maybe, yeah. I was thinking these guys would fold down, but that just might be on the Tychos or the Arleigh Burkes. So there's a whip antenna that goes up this way near the flight deck, and that's always like folded 90 degrees down when the helicopters are landing. See, this has that stern mast that should also be removed. It's you just don't have that up when you're out to sea. If you saw pictures of it up when you're out to sea, it's basically because the ship is probably in engineering trials and they're going back and forth in and out of port really quickly multiple times a day, so they often just leave it up, or they're pulling in or pulling out and they're just, they just haven't got around to removing it yet. So this would just not be here. This would be kind of like a Ticonderoga class. So sometimes they have the quarterdeck on the stern mounted here, and I imagine that this guy would be mounted inside the bulkhead somewhere on the wall, like how it was with the Oliver Hazard Perry class. But yeah, so that was a good look at the ships. I really enjoy the ships in this game. I hope you guys kind of learned stuff about the ships that I was on. Maybe one day we'll see an Arleigh Burke. Obviously, this beyond the scope of this game ends in 1985, and I think the first Burke was commissioned in 91. So it's just a little bit too far, but I'm sure somebody's modding one right now, and that'd be kind of cool to see in the game. Those things truly were a game changer. They didn't have the flight ones were sort of seen as like a cheap Aegis platform, so they didn't have a full hangar or anything like that. The Flight 2 Alphas, I believe, were the ones that had the hangars, because Flight 2s didn't even have them. And then nowadays the Arleigh Burke class has just exploded into a massive thing with just adding more capabilities to it. You saw some of the ones with the modified ESM suite, so like the cheek of them, it just looks super fat, like almost like a dog bit a bee or something. Anyways, I can ramble on about this all day, but yeah, so I hope you guys found that informative. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below and I'll get to them as soon as possible. See you on the next one. Bye.